All right, so the other important things that I needed to tell you on that were, just make sure on the grade sheet that you're including all of the required text, so the main teaser title article and 2 to 4 of the other ones, and of course keep the hierarchy and the balance and everything in mind, so that it looks like a nice cover. The other thing is, since this is a beginning class, I don't want you just using any old typefaces because it tends to make the covers look really awful and unprofessional, because typography is a skill that you learn, typically by taking a full semester or up to, in some colleges, 3 courses. So I want you to only use classic typefaces, tried and true typefaces. So here's a link and another way to find this information. In fact, you kind of need to, rather than just a link, because there's a little caveat on how you find the fonts. So here's what I always do is I just go to Google search and I go, in fact, I don't even think I have to go to Amazon first, but if you go to typographic specimens, we do want to end up in on Google, or I'm sorry, not Google, but Amazon. Here we go. Typographic specimens. See, that's Amazon there. The other way I could have did it was just went to Amazon first and then switched this to book and then put the typographic specimens in here. But you don't have to buy the book. You just go click on look inside, and it just so happens that the table of contents of this book is the fonts. So what you do is you look through the table of contents here, and you look on your machine. Why aren't you rendering? There we go. So I went too far. And you look on your machine and see if you have um, any of those fonts. There's 28 to choose from. Highly unlikely that you'll have more than about 6 or 7 of them. Where is the table? There we go. All right, so it's a couple pages in, but so Accidents Grotesque is the name of a font, American Typewriter, Baskerville, and so on. And the general rule of thumb for mixing fonts is that you want one sans serif font and one serif font. And here's a quick crash course in what the heck that means. Okay, so a font with serifs looks like this. It has these little embellishments on the end of many of the different strokes that make up the font. And a sans serif font, sans means without, so it is without serifs. When the stroke comes down to the bottom, it just ends, whereas this one has the serif on it. And generally, there's a little more to it than that as far as good fonts mixtures go, but one of each of these usually gets you in the right direction. So what you want to avoid is picking 2 fonts that, even though they're different, they're too similar. So like this is Helvetica New. If I picked another font that is a sans serif, these just look odd together because there's not enough contrast. So it just becomes pointless using 2. It kind of visually assaults and confuses the viewer, whether they know it or not. They just don't look good together on the same page. And then the last thing here is, when you're done with this project, you can't turn in the Photoshop document to, well, the Illustrator file to me. That would create 2 problems. And I'll tell you what they are just for thoroughness, but I'll tell you just quickly what you'll do is you'll just take a screenshot of it, on a Mac, Command Shift 4, you'll get a little crosshair, you drag it across, and make sure you show me that it's in Illustrator and that it's set up the correct size, that it has the bleed on it per the instructions of 1/8 of an inch. If you do that, you'll get the full credit for that process check. And the reason that you can't just simply send me the AI file is, one, the image is not embedded in it. So I would get an Illustrator file, I'd go to open it up, and it would say that it's missing the image. And that's why I told you you need to start carrying this stuff around, if you were going back and forth from college to home, in one folder, so that in that folder you have the Illustrator file and the Photoshop document. Now, you could in theory, give me that folder as a turn-in. But the problem is that these images may start out very big and they're only going to get bigger as we go. So this is probably how we'll do the process checks along the way, is just via a screenshot. And also remember, the alternate way to do a screenshot, in fact, the better way to capture what's inside of Illustrator without having to send someone an Illustrator file, is to just export it as a JPEG. And you learned all about the different ways of doing that last week. So the only thing I would say is, if you're going to do that for this process check, just let me know that that's how you did it, and that's why I'm not seeing the bleed, because remember, to do that properly, you turn the bleed off and then you export it clicking check artboards. But I'll leave it up to you whether you want to go through that or whether you want to just snap a quick screenshot. Okay, so that's it. We'll be seeing each other face to face, so to speak, via this Zoom on April 15th. I truly hope you enjoy your spring break and look forward to meeting with you then.